For what lurks from behind tall trees. All right, good evening and welcome to From Behind Tall Trees, the live super chat that does not play favorites from flesh and blood to the paranormal. It's a show that gives everyone a chance to speak their mind, present their evidence, and tell their story, which in turn allows you, the viewer, an opportunity to make an educated decision as to what you believe. This show looks to stomp out confirmation bias and general Sasquatch stupidity on both sides of the fence. And who knows, we just might find out what's really going on when it comes to this Bigfoot thing. So here we go. As you may or may not know, my name is Brendan Brown. I'm the founder and director of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. My co-pilot for tonight's trip down into the rabbit hole is the co-founder of the collective, back from a short break and a few paranormal investigations of his own, the velvet fog of the CARC, the best radio voice in the business, Mr. Sean Wagner. Sean, you there?
Yes, I am. How you doing, Brendan? And everybody out there, hello. It's nice to be back as well.
It is. It's good to have you back, man. How are things at the paranormal investigations? Good?
Things are great. We just did one Saturday, in fact. Well, at least we tried to do some EVPs in Gettysburg.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, before we get started tonight, we want to take care of some business from the home office out there in Bailey, Colorado. And to do this, we need to ask all of you out there a favor. You see, as you may or may not know, this show and the entire BXP channel are only really made possible through support from viewers like you, liking, viewing, and sharing and subscribing to the content we're spitting out here is really vital to the survival of this show and others like it. Right, Sean?
Absolutely.
You see, this show is a super chat, and it's live. So if you've got any questions at any time, go ahead and type them in for the questions, all caps, please, and we'll do our best to get it on the air. And if you're feeling generous, donate to the show, and we'll give a huge shout out. So this is a big show tonight, Sean, another Tuesday night with another monster guest. I'm looking forward to this now. Tonight's guest is no stranger to controversy on the paranormal side of the Bigfoot story. He's an expert survivalist who's circled the globe researching all types of cryptids. His YouTube channel, Snowwalker Prime, gives viewers an insight into why he's become such a firebrand when it comes to the lack of transparency and truth in today's Bigfoot research. And when he's not in the wilds of Maine, observing UFOs or casting metal prints in his workshop, he can be found wandering the woods, GoPro in hand, with his pups Luna, Mr. Blue, and Flashman. Joining us from the Pine Tree State, Snowwalker Prime himself, Mr. Michael Merchant. Good evening, Mike.
Thank you, man. What an intro.
Mike.
I don't know if I can live up to that or not, guys.
Well, I know the dogs can. The dogs are ready to go.
Oh, the dogs can, of course. Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. How are things? How are you holding up there in Maine with 2021? How's it treating you so far?
Fantastic so far.
What's the COVID situation up in Maine? Anything? People getting out in the wild? People getting out in the open again?
Well, we still have mask mandates up here, but we were pretty lucky. It's quite rural up here, so we didn't have as bad of an issue as a lot of places in the country did. That's
good to hear. It's such a, especially this time of year with the weather getting better, snow's starting to melt. The snow's gone here finally from upstate New York, and people are slowly starting to get out into the woods. And it like we said before, it's fast, quickly becoming Bigfoot season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. I'm always excited in the springtime for us to get into the forest. Oh, and so I have Lady K with me too. I'll introduce her.
Yes, of course. Hello, how are you?
My cohort and my shenanigans in the forest.
She is. She's your co-pilot, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. We're gonna have there's a pretty interesting story we're going to talk about a little bit later. Is if we get some footage or some audio evidence of stuff that you guys, I believe she was the one on the thing with you. So let's talk about, first of all, you studied at University of Maine. You're a biologist. So yes. You're out in the wilds a lot. What got you into the whole cryptid thing with the Sasquatch? I mean, that's not a normal career path for a biologist from a state university.
Well, I suppose from when I was like in my teenage years, I saw a bunch of UFOs, so that obviously perked my interest. And like a lot of people, I saw the movie. I forget what the heck it was called, but it had the Patterson footage in it, at the movie theater with it walking and turning. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Because I like the forest, and the thought that there's this monster in the forest that you might run across was, it's exciting, right? It attracts a lot of people.
It is. I mean, there's something about Sasquatch, the Sasquatch mystery, the danger in the woods or the wild that captivates people, and it usually gets them at a very young age, like yourself, and it kind of hooks them for life. You've been around the world investigating stuff. I know that you started Snowwalker Prime, your channel, 10, 11 years ago. What made you get into starting up the Snowwalker Prime channel, which is one of my favorite channels? It really kind of brought me into it a lot of different the paranormal side of the Bigfoot thing, with a lot of stuff that you talk about, and it kind of gives you a chance to vent a little bit. What got you into putting the channel out there?
Well, thank you again. You're being very kind. I have to put a lot of credit for Lady K, because I was looking at the Bigfoot phenomenon, and I guess at the time I was very skeptical, and I was kind of giving a lot of people a hard time. And Lady K was like, well, maybe you ought to go out and investigate this before you just, poke fun at everybody. And so it was a big turnaround. The biggest turnaround was when we interviewed that guy from the Allagash, right? That was one of the first eyewitness interviews we did. And the emotion in his voice was tangible, like he gave us goosebumps, and he starts breaking down and crying. And like, I'm thinking, wow, this guy needs the Oscar, or he really encountered this thing. Right. And up until that point, I hadn't really taken the idea of Sasquatch being in Maine very seriously. And so that was a big game changer for me anyways. And then Lady K pushed us to we need to go into the forest.
Ground truthing.
Right. Yeah. And I've grown up here, so I'm very familiar in the forest, and I like going into the bush where nobody else is going, where there's no trails. And I thought, hey man, we'll wrap this up. This is not going to be a big deal. 10 years ago, right? We didn't wrap anything up. If anything, we unwrapped it. We just got more and more questions, because you start off with being a skeptic, and then you kind of end up like your buddy Sean here, where you're an aper. And then if you start experiencing, the so-called woo or the paranormal events, and then you just go down, and you said, the rabbit hole, nothing makes any sense at that point. The fact that the thing is real, I mean, you can get to that point, but even that, you can't establish that. You can't prove it to, like our buddy Steven Stuford. You can't say it's evidence of Sasquatch, right? I mean, you've got all this kind of supporting evidence, but you don't have something that's duplicatable, that's like an experiment you can run to say, hey, I'm going to prove that Sasquatch is real. That's really evasive, really difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotten a lot of pushback from the hardcore, we'll call it the hardcore skeptics, or the flesh and blooders like Steven. And Steve was on the show. He's a very smart guy, and I really loved having him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I hope he comes back. But it seems like there's a lot of people out there that get kind of pissed off when you bring up the paranormal thing. That I noticed that you were kind of in the coalition for a little bit, and then you're out of the coalition, and we're talking about the Coalition for Critical Thinking. Right. Are you back in it now again?
Yeah, I've made nice with Steven. I disagree. Obviously him and I have different viewpoints on what this thing is, but I can appreciate the amount of effort he's put into it. And I appreciate his intellect. He's an extremely smart guy. And he's not wrong when he wants this bar, set really high, because you have a lot of people that put forth questionable evidence, and you have a lot of people that kind of have narcissistic tendencies that, maybe are doing it for attention or whatever, but you have a lot of information that's put out there that's not vetted, and it's not duplicatable. It's not like you can turn around and run an experiment and prove it for yourself.
Yeah, and it's tough, because it's with the show, and we do the show, and Sean can attest to this, is by having the show on YouTube, I love having the forum, and I love playing center field and giving equal time to paranormal and equal time to flesh and blooders, because I think that's how it should be, because there's a lot of groups out there, and it's unfortunate that you have to work within the Facebook media, but it's a necessary evil to advertise the show. Let's say build an audience. But you have people that are either all in 100%, everything's Bigfoot, and if you disagree with us one bit, you're out. Or
Yeah.
there's people like Steven, and shouldn't lump Steven into this, because Steven's probably smarter than a lot of these people, but there's people in there that the bar is too high, and no matter what evidence you provide, it's either going to be bullshit, or it's not going to be, it's impossible. It's unobtainable. And like you said, now you have made claims that they're real. And Sean, I know you had a couple questions regarding this, being the flesh and blood. So I'll turn it over to Sean here about what he's got to ask about that, Sean.
All right, just a couple of basic little things. How do you know they're real? Have you had an encounter? If so, can you explain that, if you could, please, for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, we started off. Okay, so the first person to see one amongst our group was Lady K, and we had been getting hearing sounds, and like I said, we interviewed some people, so we had the other eyewitness interviews that we had gone through, and I can't remember I think she saw that one, and then the next day the guy that was with us thought he saw something. And when did we get the rock clack? And that was a subsequent
later.
Trip, right?
That was way later.
Yeah, I mean, if she wants, Lady K, if you want to jump in and tell some of the story,
sure.
Feel free to jump in. I mean, Michael's not going to mind.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to be rude.
No, but for myself, Don, it was I've seen him twice, and both times it was of a paranormal nature, which I'm sure you're going to love.
No, walk us through, but seriously, walk us through that. That's what we're here for.
Right.
And Kate, Lady K, jump in at any time.
Tell them about the time that we were both in the SUV, and I told them that I told you that they were here, and then you got out of the car. You want to tell them about that time?
Well, yeah, I mean, you gave me a great intro to that.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, so we were camping in this one location, and you got to understand that, and I'm not putting this information forth to say I'm trying to prove anything, but we've had things that we viewed as being either polydimensional or extraterrestrials or some sort of other entity or intelligent, and often it kind of comes during a dream sequence or in a context of a dream. So I had been camped on this really remote logging road that up here in Maine, they'll log an area, and they're on cycles, right? So they'll log an area, then they won't go back to that area again for 15 years. But you can still get in there. The road's still there. So we were on one of these roads that had been logged a while ago, and in the middle of the night, I guess either Lady K woke me up, or I had gotten up for some reason.
I woke you up.
You woke me up?
I told you I felt their presence in the fact that when they are close to you, what's going to happen. This sounds a little strange, but if it almost feels like there's electricity going through your body, or some kind of a thing like that. So you feel them, and so I felt like I was in this half asleep, half awake type state, and I said, Michael, they're here. So he got out of the car, and then tell him what you saw.
Yeah, so I got out of the car to relieve myself, and I look over, and there's a ditch. They ditched these roads up there, and I looked in the ditch, and there was this huge black stump in the ditch. And initially, I thought, I start processing, right? I'm like, I don't remember that stump being there. And then I thought, wait a minute, they don't leave stumps in ditches, because that would kind of defeat the purpose of making a ditch if you put a giant ass stump in the middle of the ditch, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And about the time that I came to that realization, this stump jumped up into this. Looked like a human, but it was all black, and then it ran. But it made 3-4 strides, and then it just appeared to turn to dust. It was something you'd see out of a sci-fi movie or something.
It was also very, very dark too. So,
well, yeah, it was nighttime out. So I mean, if you're a hardcore skeptic, you're going to say, well, you were predisposed by Lady K telling you something, and you've hallucinated this thing because you're up there obviously looking for it. I mean, there's all kinds of explanations that people will put forth, other than the fact that from my viewpoint, the experience seemed real. I didn't feel like I was delusional or hallucinating. I didn't feel like I was in any other state of being other than, if there had been a moose there and I said, oh, I saw a moose.
Right.
You wouldn't question that. You'd say, oh, he saw a moose. But because I saw this thing that disappeared into a cloud of dust, oh, you're hallucinating.
Well,
so.
And then, another time we were at a lake, and one thing just as a tip, if you are at a lake, with the trees around when it's getting close to getting dark, kind of like look at the trees, and sometimes if they're there, that you'll see them kind of like running in between the trees. And so we saw one then, and it was pretty big. It was like
oh, huge,
yeah,
like on like impossibly huge. There's no way in hell that this thing is real. When I had Lady K go down and stand next to where we saw this thing, it was 3 times her height, and you're a little bit over 5 foot, so it had to be 15.
5'5".
It was like 15 foot tall.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And yeah, now so we're camped out at this campsite, and there was nobody else around. I mean,
So it's not a campground. It's just you're camped someplace in
there's
the
a
middle of
fire
nowhere.
pit there that the paper
Okay.
companies put out, you know, so if you want to go there, go fishing or whatever, but there was nobody there.
Okay.
And there's the road to get in, there's a dead end road, and we always drive all the way down in it and check it. So there was no people there. And we start seeing and I know this has been used before, like the predator, that cloaking where the things kind of, you can see something, but you can't really make out what it is, almost like a heat mirage type of thing. I started seeing this thing, like there'd be 2 trees and you'd see this disturbance go between the trees. And initially I thought, well, I'm seeing a floater in my eye or something. So I asked Lady K, I'm like, did you see that? And she's like, yeah. And so we're discussing it, right? This goes on for like 10 or 15 minutes. And why I wasn't filming this is beyond me, because I got a SUV full of camera equipment and I wasn't filming any of it. Like, it's very odd. And the whole time we're watching this, it's getting towards that period of night where it starts to get dusky, but you can still see the pond behind the trees. Like the trees are like right, and there's a pond behind it. And at some point, this thing stepped out behind a tree, and it was solid, inky black. Like there was no mirage. This thing was this, like, once again, it looked kind of like a human, except that it had it didn't appear to have a neck. Its head appeared to be somewhat small for the rest of the body size, and the arms appeared to be longer than a human. Had really broad shoulders as well, even though it was kind of sideways to me. From what I could see, it looked like it, had a lot of bulk to it. And it passed between the trees. There was a tree here and a tree here. It passed between them, but it appeared to go into the tree. Like the tree was not large enough. I think it was I want to say it was a hemlock. There was a bunch of hemlock trees down there, and they were, I don't know. You could put your arms around them, maybe not quite, but it wasn't to hide something that's 15 foot tall. So it appeared as if it came out of a tree, covered the gap, and then stepped into a tree. And we both saw it. I mean, I let out an audible gasp. I was like, like I couldn't fucking believe it, And I looked at her, did you just see that? And she's like, yeah, I saw it.
And that's like the first time that I saw one when he took us to the mountain, him and his friend.
The first one that you saw?
The first one I saw, it was early.
That whistled at you.
Yeah, it whistled at the second time, but at first you see it out of the corner of your eye, which is really common. If you're experiencing this, you're not going to necessarily see it right. You'll see it out of the corner of your eye. And I saw this black, I couldn't see the face, but I saw this all black figure, very trim, muscular, extremely muscular, and just like running. And then I look and it's like nothing's there. And it's early spring. The leaves are incredibly tiny, so I could see. I had really good vision of the area around. So I just thought, I'm being silly. I'm just getting myself scared in the woods. I'm not going to believe that. And I kept on going, walking down, following the stream. And then I heard a whistle. Go ahead.
Oh, no, but okay. So I forgot about this. So when she saw that first Sasquatch, the next morning we get up, and you got to understand where we were at it was not quite, but a good solid 3/4 of a mile into this tract of conservation land. I think it's 12,000 acres, and there's only one trail on it, and we weren't on that trail. So we had gone down to the parking lot where people use the trail, and to my knowledge, there was no people there. So the next morning when we get up, we're cooking breakfast and drinking coffee. We hear this massive tree fall over. Like, it wasn't like just clunk. It was like, it was like one of these just,
wow.
We're all like, oh my God, like, what was that? 120-foot pine tree just came down.
Now, not to cut you off, but I don't know if you know a guy named Bama Bigfoot. he's commented here, and I think it looks like he knows you because it says, Michael, you have that on video. You just don't know it. I wish I could remember.
Right. I don't know it.
Because it says, I wish you could remember what video it was. It's an old one. So thank you, Bama Bigfoot, but Mike don't remember what video it is. So go ahead. So the tree comes down, which Les Stroud has talked about that too, where he's just sitting there. And he's another guy that's out in the fucking middle of the
but that's
woods.
no big deal, right? One tree. Statistically, trees fall down in the woods. People hear shit in the woods. I mean, like
all the time.
Right, you walk through the woods, there's trees down all over the fucking place. Like trees are falling down. Okay, so that's not that big of a deal. That's just a tree falling down. Like I've heard that before, but usually you hear it during an ice storm or during a bad windstorm. That's when trees are compromised, or a heavy rainstorm, and the rotten wood gets saturated with water and it gets really heavy and it gets compromised and it breaks. Right. It's a perfectly still, beautiful, like June day, 70 degrees. The crickets are chirping, the butterflies are flying. It's like, there's no reason for a tree to fall down, other than maybe a bear pushed it over, right? I'm playing the devil's advocate, the skeptic.
Of course, Occam's razor here.
Okay, so over the next maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, 5 or 6 more trees come down. All around us. They're coming down around us. Obviously, something is pushing these trees over.
Right.
And they're not little trees. These sound like massive, and we're looking and we're not seeing a tree come down. So you see, this is the thing about the Sasquatch. Like lots of times, it's not a single event that takes place. It's a number of events that kind of violate the laws of statistical probability, right? You start having something happen that's kind of odd, and then you have another thing. Well, that's kind of odd. Now you have 5 or 6 things that are really odd. That adds up to a big question mark in my mind, right? You can turn around and explain away the one thing, like the tree falling over. Trees fall over. Maybe a moose pushed it. Maybe a bear pushed it. Would a bear circle you and push 6 trees down in 45 minutes? Like I've never heard of them doing that. Not to say they couldn't. Maybe a bear was pissed at us. Maybe a bear was pushing these giant trees over.
Yeah, but you would have seen. You think you would have seen
Sasquatch or saw this, shadow figure the day before, right? And heard and it whistled at her.
Well, what's interesting is because I remember Lady K, we talked about that on the phone on Saturday when we were talking. Is I thought it was interesting because you hear this all the time. Is she said that you and your friend were annoying the shit out of her, so she had to go for a walk on her own. But she was by herself in the woods, so the lady.
I was annoying the shit out of you.
I
knew about that for like 5 years.
I had to get away from the guys.
Exactly. So, but the thing was, here's a lady by herself in the woods, and that seems to draw in maybe a less confrontational experience because they're not as threatening. And then seeing it out of the corner of her eye, I mean, you hear that all the time. And so that I thought that was amazing. And then the whistle, and I've got. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Well, no. I mean, I interrupted you again, but I forgot there was another aspect.
That's what makes it a great show. Go.
Okay, so when she went for this walk, so we had hiked into this location, and she wanted to go for a walk, and I told her, I said, do not leave the stream because we're in an area of the woods where, like, if you get confused, you can go 20 miles or 10 miles or something before you come out to a road, right? So I didn't want her to get lost. I said, stay right on the stream. And when she went up that stream, she'd been up there a while. I went up the stream looking for her. Well, on the way up there, I found what I interpreted as Sasquatch tracks. They looked like human barefoot footprints, but there were 3 sizes of them. There was a somewhat small size. The largest one was this is not it, by the way. This is the Gray's Harbor cast, but the biggest one was this size or larger. And the thing is, I'm walking along and I'm intent upon finding out where she's at because it's getting dusk. So I'm sticking sticks in these tracks, going, I'm going to come back and I'll cast these, later, right? Because I brought plaster because I couldn't find the tracks when I went looking for them again, even though they were right next to this stream. But there were 3 sets of tracks that looked like a barefoot person had gone through there.
Does that answer your question, Sean?
I think a little bit. That's quite interesting. How do you know? How certain are you the footprints could have been from Bigfoot that you got by chance? I know it's hard to tell because
not very certain.
It could be.
Sean.
Okay.
You know how I'd be certain? If I was watching Bigfoot step in the track, and even then I wouldn't be that certain because it's so strange. I'd be questioning my own sanity at that point. Here's a track cast that I cast this year. It's not super big.
It's deep though. It looks like the toe
very nice.
Moss. But look how it kind of looks a little bit like Cripplefoot, a little bit. It's got that bend to it, right? Isn't that odd?
Well, but it does look like the Cripplefoot track, but I like how deep the toes are because
But there's not much detail to it because you can tell it was in moss, right?
Right, but it does have the Cripplefoot the hook to it. Although I think
Right.
Cripplefoot would be probably I don't know 70, 80 years old by now on the other side of the country.
So there's toes, what look like toes up here. But once again, this could be I'm sure if Steven saw this, I can't speak for Steven, but I bet he would say,
Right.
well, that's their double print, which it could be.
True.
But again, there were other things that happened where I cast this track that, a series of events that lead me to believe that maybe it's not a bear track.
Well,
Right.
I think also, if you don't mind me saying, I
No,
think
go ahead.
the fact that I guess for Sean there is that we're interacting with something intelligent, and normally, it's not just another person because you can see another person. There's some other element there, and it's just very strange. So in that way, that's it's not just coincidence after coincidence; it's an interaction.
Yeah, that's true. So you'll maybe do something and you perceive it as getting a response. Now maybe our perception of these events is incorrect, right? I mean, that's what a skeptic would say.
Well, of course,
I
that's what they would say.
The skeptic, I can play it, but I'm telling you, when you're in the situation and the hair on the back of your neck goes up and shit's happening, you very quickly start, after the fact, you become a skeptic again. During the event, you're not a skeptic.
Well, because you're busy shitting your pants. Let's be realistic. Sean and I had an account, and this wasn't an encounter. This was just an audio thing. But we were out doing an investigation, and we were in the Allegheny National Forest. And again, they have tracts of forested land where they'll cut the trees down, and then there'll be an big empty lot with a logging road. And we were sitting on an old fire road in the middle of freaking nowhere, and we had this scream came over our shoulder, and literally, looking at it, I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'4", 300 and something pounds, and I was like, "Holy shit! What the hell was that?" And it does when you're in. You can be the toughest guy in the world or the biggest skeptic in the world, but I would imagine in the situations that you guys were in, it's a totally different story. You're living a series of events are happening, and they're probably happening very fast. And you don't have time, like you said. A lot of people say, "Well, I wish I would have recorded that. I wish I would have done that." Luckily, we had our digital recorder going, and so we're able to capture the audio evidence. But without that, we probably wouldn't have caught anything if it wasn't for the fact that we just had the digital recorder rolling. And to roll onto that, I'd like to roll in, if it's okay with you, Mike and Lady K, is I want to play the recording that you had on your YouTube channel with the two of you guys in the woods with the woes. The recording, if it's okay. I did a little video with the subtitles. So let's just play that and let everybody listen to it and see, and then you guys can tell us what was happening when you guys recorded this. So, Bill, go ahead and play that.
Yes, hello.
If he's there.
You did it again.
I heard that. Look at Luna, man. She's getting excited about it, too.
Yep.
She's also looking down the road.
Yep.
Something is mimicking this. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not normal for animals to respond to you like that.
Well, what if it's people?
We know it's not because it follows us up into the woods.
That's true. And there's at least 2 individuals.
Something is mimicking this. It's not.
Yeah.
So walk us through that. What was going on that day? I'd love to hear the story of that because it sounded pretty freaking cool.
I'm not. Is this the one you think was? Is this the one you thought was people? You don't?
Well, this is the one I'm torn.
We
on.
disagree on some stuff here.
That's fine.
I'm not sure that, because I was pretty excited at the time, and because we had been hearing when we were leaving the mountain hoots and stuff. So, but I'm not sure. I was pretty excited about that, but I'm not sure that later on that maybe people, it could have been people or something like that.
See, I don't think it's people. I think it's either a Sasquatch type creature or it's an owl.
Now, what was this? What was the conditions? Where was that? When was that? You were coming from someplace. Walk us through what led up to that audio tape. because we don't
Okay,
really
so
know.
that was up in northern, like north of Moosehead Lake, which is the biggest lake in Maine. We
Okay.
go up in that around that area a lot. And we had gone into the location where Lady K had previously seen the shadow Sasquatch. Like we would hike in there quite often, and
Mhm.
I don't know what the timetable was, but at some point we started like leaving, whatever, sardines and Italian sandwiches and shit, the gifting, as they say. Well, I'm ready to try anything to see if it's going to work, right? So I'm going to leave
right.
something. So we're hiking up in there, and one of the things that we found that when we would hike up into those areas, not so much lately, but back then, it would seem when we would come out that we would have something. If it was an owl, it was a couple owls following us, going whoo whoo, and they would follow us out of the woods. Of course, I don't necessarily think they were owls.
This is the thing is like when we went up there with Kat and Tony when we were hiking.
Oh, there was a lot of hooping then. Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting because just as we were leaving, there was a hoot, like they were following us, just like they paralleled me in the woods.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing is that only Kat and I could hear it, and both of the men could not hear it.
Well, I'm half deaf.
Which
I have terrible hearing,
which
so.
was strange.
Yeah.
But so in this area
That's a really good point for not. Okay.
No, go ahead. This is great.
No, this is a totally separate incident, but this just goes to show the high strangeness of these events. We were in this pit one day, and I heard what I thought was like back in the day when we had station wagons. Station wagon pulls up and a whole bunch of kids hop out and they're making a bunch of noise and running. Right,
Oh, yeah.
That was in my mind's eye. That's kind of what I saw. I heard this commotion down a few hundred feet from us down by the road, and the dogs I think the dogs responded to it, right? You didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it at all.
And I had at the time my Zoom recorder going, and I was also filming with my camera, and the dogs like barked, and I ran down the road, and of course there was nothing there. And then I went back, and Kathy was like, well, what was that? And I said, well, you didn't hear that? She goes, no. She always hears stuff that I don't hear because I'm completely deaf in one ear. Like it's weird that I would have heard this and the dogs responded to this and then she didn't hear it. And I go, well, not a problem. I got it on the recorder. I'll just play it back. And it wasn't on the recorder. And then I thought, well, it's got to be on the camera. We'll take the SD card out. We'll put it in your laptop and we'll play it. And obviously that sound will be on, and it wasn't on there. You could get the reaction of the dogs, but you couldn't hear what the dogs were responding to.
It's a very strange in the area,
very odd.
in the area where you heard the recording. That's also the area that I had my friend come out, and she was with us, and
the red eyes.
Yeah, the red eyes. She's a little like ESP. You know what I mean? She's like one of the she does like the dowsing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just saying, okay, we're just going to give it a try, see what happens, because we had already. Oh gosh, this is a long time.
And I'm not a supporter of the tree hugging hippie psychic.
You're not?
No. Can't you tell by my derogatory terminology? No.
Fucking tree huggers.
No, I am. I'm kind of being funny a little bit here. No.
Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, this is my friend.
No, I know. No, she's a very nice person, and she's a smart
Probably
person.
watching, Mike. Now you're going to be off the Christmas list.
Exactly. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what happens is that
Nice job, Mike.
previously to this, we had been sitting around the fire, and when you hear them come up on you, you hear footsteps. You may not necessarily see them, but you're going to hear the footsteps in the leaves, right?
Right.
You've experienced that. Okay, so she heard that, got freaked out, and was like gonna go head out to the car. I said, "Hey, no, this is don't be like that. This is they're very nice, hi." And I just pretended it's like, "Hey, I introduced them. Here's my friend, blah blah blah." Even though I couldn't see anything, I don't know why I did that, but I did. So at any rate, it's like so she started doing her dowsing, and we did a gifting, and then we started asking questions, and they would answer according to her thing. So anyway, but so I looked up. I mean, she wasn't looking in the direction I was looking, but I looked up and I saw what looks like two red eyes, almost like in the alien shape, though. These red glowing type things. And I thought maybe it's a reflector. Maybe it's something of our equipment, our recording equipment. So I kept on asking, I said, what is this? So I turned off the little red light on my headlamp. And then, and I said, I said, "Is it the light?" And then it blinked its eyes. I hadn't realized I was looking at illuminated red eyes.
And it wasn't owl? No owl, no.
No, and it was like the eyes were probably at least it's probably as big as my hands. Let me see, like that, big as my hands, and probably about, I don't know, 14 feet up. Tall. It was very, very strange. And the thing about it is that it scared me so much, my heart just started racing, and then my knees just about buckled. I could not look at in the eye anymore.
Which is strange, because it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the past, the other experiences that you're talking about with the hoop and the hollow, it didn't seem like you were nervous or anxious or.
She's never scared.
I'm never scared, but
never scared of anything.
But
right.
Even when she should be scared, she's not scared.
I try not to be scared, because I don't think there's any positives that come from it. But that was a little much for me. And is that was a little much for me, because it was like this self-illuminated, like almost like the classic alien looking eyes, except they were red. And so it was that was a bit much. That was a bit much.
So what do you think you were looking at? We can get away from the Bigfoot. If you don't think it was Bigfoot, that's fine, because a lot of the high strangeness that I think is connected to this stuff that my paradigm shift has been leaning towards, we talked about before the show, I think not all of it may have to do with Bigfoot. And I know there's skeptics, and I know there's people out there rolling over and turning the show off right now, and that's fine. Because
I'm sorry about
I
that.
really don't give a shit. But I mean, so tell me,
We did then see a UFO after she saw the eyes.
Yeah.
But what do you think you were looking at there, Lady K? I mean, did something that terrified you or made you nervous?
Completely dark, and so I could not see. But it struck me as very, very strange. And then I could not get my friend to turn around. She said she would be scared, and then Michael was not.
I was in an altered state of consciousness.
He was not. I kept talking to him, but he wouldn't get up.
Yeah. It was very strange.
So it was I'm just saying that strange stuff happens in this place, and I don't know.
I was laying down. I felt almost I can't say the term.
Anesthetized.
Anesthetized. Thank you.
Well, and not to go back to beat a dead horse with Les Stroud, but Les Stroud's Survivor Man. I found that season very interesting when he did the Bigfoot seasons. He did different, except for the cop out. I think the one in Portland outside of Oregon was a little weird, where he didn't turn on the cameras, but he made claims to that where he felt like he was being sat on or anesthetized. He couldn't move in certain episodes. So it's not like, I mean, if there's are smart, you seem like smart, intelligent, bright, forward-thinking people. I don't think you're making
we got YouTube.
But you know what I'm saying, Sean? I mean, Sean, you're the flesh and blooder here. What's your take on what you're hearing from Mike and Lady K right now? Chime in there, or are you going to turn the show off?
I'm one who maybe would turn the show off. I'm honestly amazed at the story. I kind of not sure what to ask. That's why I'm amazed what they're saying. Really,
I mean,
don't know what to take of it.
I completely wish that you guys experience similar things. It will completely blow your mind.
Well, like I told you guys, is I'm starting to work with some people out in the Midwest, and I'm lining up an investigation with a lot of the high strangeness stuff that I want to go see at the end of this month, and I want to witness for myself. So hopefully, I'm going to be able to speak to you guys from experience with this in a couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. That being said, kill, no kill, where are you guys at with trying to prove? Because I know that you've quoted a very cute.
Sorry.
There they are.
Sorry about that. Hey,
It's okay.
no, stop.
The man eaters.
Yes. See. So regardless of what what we were just talking about is, there was a very interesting quote that you had. I think I really enjoyed it. And you said, anything other than a body in a box, you might as well be kissing your sister, which I thought was a great quote. Because even Grover Krantz said that Bigfoot will have to be proven, even science demands a corpse. You'll have to drag the stinking thing around to each university and shove it underneath the noses of professors to prove the damn thing exists. Right. Kill or no kill? What's your take on this?
Well, I think I speak for Lady K. We're no kill. But like I said before in videos, I'm not against a semi running over a blind old Sasquatch that wanders out in front of me on the interstate. Because we need a body in a box. That's what we're going to need. Because all of this, it's it's really nice. Like, I love interviewing eyewitnesses, and I love it when other people interview eyewitnesses, and you get, because it gives you like some support, right? You've seen this, you've experienced this strange, now you got some camaraderie with somebody else that's also, but you're not going to resolve the puzzle. You're not going to resolve this issue by that alone, because the skeptics, and rightly so, they want a body that they can poke with a stick. Like, there's a body, right?
Yeah, I think that would lighten the load a lot on everybody if there was one. But then again,
right, and we can't get our hands on a body, which is also another kind of, in my mind, supporting, you know, the paranormal. Now, of course, the skeptic's going to say, well, you're just using that because you can't come up with any evidence to support the paranormal. So you know, you kind of get into this snake eating its tail type of position. But I mean, what are you going to do? How do you get the skeptics? Like Sean here, so he's an APA, right? It was nice that the APers and the Woo people can get together, because at least we share the common boundary of having an interest in Sasquatch, right?
Right.
We might not agree
Definitely
upon the particularities and the details, but we're in a different group than the people that are completely skeptical totally about it or have no interest in it whatsoever, right? But we seem to be at odds with each other, because the skeptics are asking for this very reasonable data. They want reproducible, duplicatable results. They want to be able to do an experiment that proves something. And the people that are coming forth with this, anecdotal evidence or this eyewitness evidence, we can't provide that for them. All we can say is, look, we experienced this thing. And we know humans hallucinate. And we know humans can be delusional, right?
right.
So what do you got? You don't have anything other than the experience.
You know, there's a question here on the thing from Vincent. He says, "Do you think the Sasquatch bury or possibly eat their own dead?" Which sounds like a very morbid, cannibalistic thing.
Very.
Chickens do. Chickens eat their dead. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know. That's
The fact that we don't have a body, and you've got stories of, you know, portals, and I've seen one of these things, or at least it was my perception that the event was that this thing turned into dust, and then another one walked into a tree. Now, whether those events really occurred or something else made me think those events occurred, I'll leave up to you guys to decide. But from my viewpoint, it happened. So I'm thinking these things are really strange. And then we've also seen UFOs, like that night that she saw those red eyes. Right after that occurred, and I kind of come out of this like slumber that I was in. We're laying there looking up at the sky, and I can't remember if we verbalized a question or something. And then this incredibly bright, in an area that's all black directly above us, this super bright light, like, you know.
Now, you're familiar with the Jan Maccabee story, correct? From the M411 Chronicles.
I don't think so.
At all. Jan Maccabee, the optical physicist's wife. What's his name? Bruce Maccabee, right? He works for NASA, works for optical physics. His wife was hunting, and this was in Lima, Ohio, and she was bow hunting on her property.
I am familiar with this, and she saw the cloaked creature
Yes.
that stretched out to a tree and then like retracted it.
Right. So yes, which is exactly the story that you had, is where it was cloaked, and there's the picture. Right. Bill, if you want to bring up that picture that her camera took. And and Bruce said that the resolution wasn't the camera resolution. There's no way that this could be taken by her camera. This was the picture that her camera took when she was facing towards the Bigfoot or whatever the anomaly was. There's not much there. It looks like there's a little bit of hair and a little bit of sunlight, but you can take that off, Bill, now. But it was the same exact thing where the blob or the predator thing was going from tree to tree, and at the same time, in an unrelated instance, a mile away, her nephew was having band practice, and there was a giant orb above the thing. So, you know, again, this is a completely different story, a completely different state, but yet two of the same things that you guys are seeing. So again, the flesh and blooders and the apers are rolling over, but there is some sort of connection here, I believe. To what extent, I have no idea.
Sooner or later, the apers, if they're putting in the legwork and they're going into the forest, they're going to encounter this shit, and then they're going to have to deal with it at some point, just like we had to deal with it. I'm not happy about it.
Right.
I didn't ask to be in this friggin' position. I'd much rather be saying, oh, they're just flesh and blood. Like, that would be so much more acceptable and less crazy sounding. But I've chosen, and Lady K is very courageous about this too. We've chosen to share these stories, and you get a lot of ridicule from people.
Well, I appreciate you guys really coming on, and there's a lot of people that when I first reach out to them to come on the show, they're like, no, because this is why I don't want to be on the show. And then I'll explain to them the premise of the show, and then you watch the show and see that it's, we're trying to do it right there in the middle. What do you think is the biggest obstacle besides blinders here on trying to figure this thing out? I know that you've brought up the issue of monetary compensation through media hoaxing and stuff like that. Let's talk about that. What do you think the biggest obstacle is in the discovery of trying to figure this thing out?
Are you referring to the television shows that fake evidence?
With that, whatever you think, yeah, of course. Let's go right there. We can move right into that.
Well, the
Perfect
other
segue.
thing, I mean, the probably the most difficult stumbling block you have is the inability to provide a duplicatable experiment to support the woo side of this thing. How do you do that? I've said in the past that the best you can do is take, like, for example, take somebody like Sean into the forest where these paranormal things are happening, hope that one of them duplicates, which is exceedingly rare that they duplicate. It's almost always a different paranormal type event. Like, you can't seem to predict what's going to happen. It's almost the opposite of being able to duplicate somebody. It's like, it's almost impossible to get the same thing to happen twice.
Mm-hmm.
But you take a person in and they have a personal experience, and maybe that gets them thinking down a different line. Or if you're a really hardcore skeptic, you go in there and it doesn't matter what you see, you're still going to interpret it in a format of the worldview that you've been, that you had established, right? So you've got this pre-established filter in place, which, I don't know. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, because I'd rather have people thinking logically and sanely than a bunch of wackadoodles that are believing any kind of nonsense. So,
True.
like, I'm a big supporter of the skeptics. I don't know how to get the two together. I don't know how you can turn around.
That's true. It's you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because the problem is you like we talked about before, is you've got certain people are way too far in where everything is Bigfoot, and those are the apers or the habituators. And
we've also got professional skeptics that, as you said, they get monetary compensation for saying that everything is not a Sasquatch. And then, of course, you got people, like Thinker Thunker's one of them, that everything's a Sasquatch, right? You got a fellow buncher pushing trees over, and in his mind, he'll make this argument that it's a Sasquatch because he's getting monetary compensation to say that that's a Sasquatch. The people on these TV shows are not getting paid to say it's not a Sasquatch. They're not on the show if they say it's not a Sasquatch.
Well, that's what frustrates me about Dr. Meldrum. It seems like he's got a bad agent, or the editing. It seems like he gets played a lot, or it seems like he comes out on the short end of the stick.
He's such a nice guy too.
I've never met him, but I've heard nothing but good
I haven't
things
met him in
about the guy.
person, but I've corresponded with him. He's very, polite and considerate, and he puts himself out there. And I mean, he takes a lot of flack, but he's probably got bills to pay like everybody else. And I mean, and he's in a certain position. People offer him money. Like, I don't know what his decision making is. I don't know whether he's been caught in a couple things. Remember that cave over in China where they faked the tracks?
Yes, that. And then, there's been some stuff where it's like, what is he like when he was on? I don't know why he ended up on the Todd Standing documentary. It's like, what did Todd Standing have on him that he showed up on? Poor him and Dr. Bindernegger were on his thing, on his documentary. And it's, what are you doing on this documentary? And then you
Todd
had
Standing's an interesting character, though. I know Todd Standing has hung out with people that, in my mind, are having experiences with Sasquatch. So
he seems very high-spirited.
What's
Todd
that?
Todd Standing seems very high-spirited, like a hummingbird.
Produces a hell of a movie, man. Those are very watchable movies that he's making.
You got to give him credit, though. I mean, as much I would love to have him on the show, but it seems like he gets out there. I mean, he gets way out there, and I know. I'm not talking to a pussy here. You've been out and you did the Out of the Wild. For those of you who are just joining us, this is Mike Merchant with Lady K. Mike was on the $10 million Bigfoot bounty, if he looks familiar, but he's also was on Out of the Wild. So if people don't, just to bring up some credentials here, if you don't think the guy knows what he's talking about when he's out there, he does. Toot your own horn for a second and tell people about Out of the Wild. That was a while ago. What did they put you through on that?
Oh my God, that was sheer hell. I mean, like I said, they dropped us off on a Tepui. They dropped us off on Mount Roraima, which was the inspiration for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, because there's species on the top of that tepui that aren't found anywhere else in the world.
What country is that in?
That was in Venezuela, and then part of it was in Brazil. We went into Brazil briefly. And we had very minimal equipment, almost no food. I lost 41 pounds in 26 days, and we hiked 73 miles in the jungle.
And that's the jungle. We're talking the Brazilian rainforest jungle, Venezuela.
Right. Well, there was a lot of macheteing, but there was also some trails. I mean, we were basically following an ancient Pomone travel route that the Pomone Indians would use, not so much now because they've been kind of civilized, civilized, as you would say. Yeah. But I mean, these people were brilliant. I mean, they managed to survive in an environment that practically killed me. Like, I thought, it's the jungle. I'll just go naked, and there'll be, fruit hanging off the trees. And
it's not Gilligan's Island, for God's sake.
It's not going to be a problem. It's going to be easy. It'll be a fucking vacation. Yeah, I'm on board. I come out of there looking like an Auschwitz survivor. Like, I've weighed 160 pounds, I think, when I came out of there.
Now, how did you get picked for these shows? Did you?
Once again, I can blame her over here for trying to get me killed.
No, he was on the couch playing too many video games, and and so I saw this thing. It's like, sign up for this Out of the Wild, a trek through the woods and stuff like that. So
I did want to catch a boa constrictor, and I thought that's the only chance I'll probably have to catch a boa constrictor.
No, it was mostly because he was irritating me playing all the video games. I said, no,
again.
I did catch a boa constrictor, by the way.
Very proud of that. Very proud of that. Wow. Kate, finish the story. You got him on. How'd you get him on the show?
Oh, I had him sign out. We just did like a short, I don't know, like a minute video.
We did this spoof on the stingray shuffle because there's freshwater stingrays down there, and you have to do this shuffle. So you don't. So I just kind of did my goofy thing. I'm like, I'm doing the stingray shuffle, Next thing you know,
kind of goofed around, danced a little bit.
I didn't take it very seriously. I really didn't.
And then he got picked.
It's not hard to get on TV, guys. It's not. Everybody acts like it's hard. It's not hard.
More guts than I do. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. The way that he prepared for the trek was.
I ate a lot of ice cream.
He ate ice cream and French fries to gain weight.
I packed like 20 pounds on because I knew I was going to. And I was hiking. I'd hike every day 5 miles with a backpack. I had like 75. Well, I had Russell's gear in my backpack.
Yes.
I had
So we have that picture. You want to bring up Russell's backpack? We're going to get to that real quick.
I had like 70, 80 pounds in a backpack, and I'd go hike 5 miles every night, and then
there it is.
Oh yeah, 80 pounds of gear.
That's
also the Sasquatch in the backpack.
We've also while we're talking about
you know what else is in his backpack? His ego.
Well, they just did the season. They just signed the cast for season 3 of Expedition Bigfoot. I don't know if you know that. Bill, you can go ahead and bring up that Expedition Bigfoot poster that I was able to get it through Rail Splitters. So there it is.
Oh my God, I love it.
You're getting a stink eye. Russ was giving you a stink eye there. I'll send you a copy.
Yoga. That's funny as hell.
And the pooches are there. Exactly.
Oh,
let's talk about that show. While we're hitting on Expedition Bigfoot, it seems like you've picked up you've got an axe to grind a little bit with the show.
And I don't want to grind this axe either.
I know, but serial hoaxers are serial hoaxers. And for those of you who, actually, to tell you the truth, Mike, it was you that really kind of shed the light on me with season 1, with the Antone Ranch and all that stuff. And then I did my research, and I'm like, holy shit, this whole freaking thing is almost scripted.
It's a sham. The whole thing's a sham.
And now here we are with season 2, and I know that Steve and Stryford had a big issue with them. A lot of people are saying that that you're pissed off about it because you weren't picked for the show.
Let me give you a scenario. A scenario.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
So these guys are defrauding the Bigfoot community, and I'm jealous. Now, if I'm down on Main Street and I see these 4 characters rob the bank, and I go, hey, they're robbing the bank. Well, you're jealous. What a stupid response. You're just being trolled. When somebody says you're jealous and you point out that somebody is frauding somebody and there's hard evidence, you're not just making this shit up. Like, there's actual hard evidence you can go and look without any question that they were lying to you. You're reporting a crime. Like, why would you be jealous of a bunch of hoaxers? Like, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous statement.
And it's funny because it's almost like talking to a flat earther when you go to to their Facebook page and you try to, because I've tried to get on there and try to explain to people that season 1 was a fraud and season 2, and you just can't reach them. There's nobody answering that freaking door when you're trying to tell them that it's a show. They're not doing any real research. And say what you want about, I had my problems with finding Bigfoot, but my problems with finding Bigfoot weren't with the researchers. It was with the producer and the
Me
way
too.
they
I'm with you 100%.
Keith
the researchers
Hoffman,
are fantastic. They're great people.
yeah, the way Keith put the show together, I thought he was doing his best to make them look like fucking jackasses. And I don't think he did Cliff and Bobo and I guess we can throw Matt in there and what's her name? I don't think they did them a disservice because they made them kind of look like fools sometimes. On the other hand, with the Expedition Bigfoot, they're, as you can say, they're voluntarily perpetrating a fraud.
Right. And they're using the NDA as an excuse and to not tell the truth. And if you go over there and you ask, like, I've been blocked by every cast member on the show because I've gone over and asked them, like, why did you mislead us about staying at the Anton Dude Cattle Ranch? Why did you tell us a gold mine was a toxic cinnabar mine so poisonous you had to use a drone to explore it? Right? Like blatant BS. And the thing is, when you're talking about Sasquatch, it's such a hotly debated subject, right? And it's a very sensitive subject. And with science, you need truth and you need credibility and you need to set the bar. I'm with Steven on this one. You need to have the bar really, really high, and you got to have credible people, because just like the stories we're telling you guys, like, they're unbelievable, right? And if I was out hoaxing and faking shit, people would say, oh, well, he's just making that shit up. Like, you have to have credibility. It's the only thing you got to stand on. And when you got a bunch of people that have sold their credibility for a paycheck, they're just playing in the woods. They're just actors.
And
like,
that's the
no
thing.
Substance to that show at all.
And that's the thing is I have no problem with the fact that it's on television and it's entertainment. I'm not jealous. I don't want to be on the show.
I don't find it entertaining myself.
But my problem is they're pretending under the guise of they're doing real research. Right. They're not admitting to the fact that they never came clean with the fact that they were at the Anton Ranch. They never admitted that. Like you said, you can't comment anywhere. They'll take it down. You can't shed any light on it.
Right. They removed the comment. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's just ridiculous. It's frustrating, and it is. And I get it. It's but then they moved to Washington State. And I think that's where they claimed to find the DNA.
The chimp DNA.
Yeah. Let's bring that up. Anybody who hasn't watched the show,
Dr. Meyer's like, oh my God, we found this. We found Pan. Pan is, of course, is chimp, right? And other primates in their environmental sample. So I thought it was in Kentucky they found it. So it was in Oregon.
I know they started the research in Kentucky, and I think for some reason they ended up flying to Washington State and doing the finish. But I wasn't going to pay the money to watch it. I'm not.
I'm not going to waste my time watching
exactly,
that.
And it's not. It just wasn't.
I wasted my time watching the first season. I didn't feel like I was going to have to endure the second season.
Exactly. And it is. I mean, it is put together well for entertainment purposes with the music and the oh my God, this and that.
Oh my God, I hear a branch breaking. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? That's silent. Oh, I smell something. Do you smell something odd? Like everything. If it's silent, it's a Sasquatch. If it's a branch breaking, it's a Sasquatch. If it smells like the forest, it's a Sasquatch. If it smells like something else. Like everything is a Sasquatch, right? Everything. Oh my God. Yes,
indeed.
Yeah, my blood pressure is going up just thinking about this stupid.
I know. Do you have it now? Do you follow Steve Visit at all? Pro Guide 66.
Oh my God.
Let's talk about him.
You want a lot of people to hate me tonight, don't you?
I need to know because I ordered his book. I haven't read it yet. But I want you to clear the air. I want to talk about Pro Guide 66, Steve Visit.
The How to Hunt Guide.
Yes, the How to Hunt Guide.
Yeah.
How to Hunt Guy. Go ahead.
I'm not a fan.
Not a fan. He does have. I think the book is called "The Day Bigfoot Became Real to Me."
His book is a collection of emails that people sent to him that he never bothered to vet. So, I mean, I suppose it's got some value because it's a bunch of eyewitness reports, but at least like I'm assuming, like, you go and interview a person, you're kind of wondering, well, is this, like, you don't want to get duped, right? You're not gonna I'm not gonna put up an interview by somebody that I think's feeding me a bunch of BS,
right?
Because I don't want to be producing that kind of material.
Oh, you
And-
know what? You want to know what you're getting in for, especially when you're going live. especially with
Exactly.
something like this.
So, they have
That's
to convince me first. And if I'm convinced by their story, then I'm going to promote their story.
it. Right.
I don't know, so I don't know. That's not really being vetted, but
Well, that's what
I think Steve's in it just for the notoriety. I don't really think I can't say because I don't know the guy, but there's just something about him that grates on my nerves.
I think out of
Rubs me the wrong way.
313 pages the book is, and I think he only actually wrote 11 of the pages, and the rest are, I'm not lying, and the rest are the copy and paste email stuff that was put together. That's crazy.
Yeah, see, I can see by the comments, a lot of people like the How to Hunt guy. They think so. The How to Hunt guy, in a nutshell, I think, comes along and tells us that he's going to stop the bullying. But from my viewpoint, he does a lot of bullying. But he's going to stop the bullying. He's going to expose the truth, and he's going to let the cat out of the bag. And this is huge conspiracy, and he's going to clear it all up. I think that's kind of his main message, which I'm not totally against clearing up the BS, but I just don't think that this guy is. He doesn't seem sincere to me, and maybe I'm wrong. Don't hate on me. It's just my opinion.
I'm not buying it
I'm not going to
either.
fault you for
Michael.
liking him. If you want to like the guy, watch his videos. Go ahead. I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I try to watch them, and I try to. He comes off as a sad sack, It's just got such a life struggle, and I don't know
He
him personally.
douchebag a lot.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
douchebags. Like he
yeah,
has a lot of
and,
derogatory, nomenclature that he utilizes. That I don't know, kind of. Maybe that's what grates on me.
I did ask him if he'd like to come on the show. I haven't heard back from him. No surprise. I'm not really holding my breath, nor do I care.
Probably won't happen now that we're trashing him on your podcast.
There's a lot. I mean,
Not a way to get guests, man.
It's not. And the first show we did, I went up once because I had Carter Bouchard on. Well, he's a good friend of mine. He's from the BFRO, and he was talking. He went into depth. And Carter, I know you're out there listening, buddy. How you doing? He went into extent why he left the BFRO and why a lot of people are leaving the BFRO as far as investigators are, is the editing of the content, the confirmation bias. If it doesn't fit their agenda, if there's anything in there in that report that's paranormal, it's thrown out.
Right.
And he's
too.
Yeah, and he's literally, I don't know if you've heard of that before, and that's ridiculous.
I think Cliff Brockman told me that.
Yeah, and I mean, and so if you're taking a report and you're editing it and throwing it out, so there's a lot of people that are leaving. A lot of the researchers continue to stay because they like to have the phone book. They consider it the BFRO phone book for the resources. Right. They get all the reports and the addresses of what's going on. So.
No, there's perks to it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I couldn't imagine paying $300 or $500 to go on an expedition. Half of that goes to Moneymaker, and half of that goes to whatever. I
don't want to spend that much time in civilization. If I'm going out, I want to go into the woods. I don't think these guys are going into the woods like we go into the woods.
I don't think they do. I don't think they're because I think they invite a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't as mobile and as nimble as getting around in the woods as you guys are. And that's I know Sean can speak to this, and we try to get deep. And we've got I'm a little bit older, and Sean's a little bit older. But we have a couple of young guys that go deep, and then we maintain radio contact with them. But you have to get in there, and you have to boots on the ground.
Yep.
But I can't believe the hour has flown by. It really has. I can't believe we got some guys here talking to us. Steve Isidol is going to be roasted off the Richter soon, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to thank you, Mike. I really do. Lady K, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. We had a great time. Sean, you want to add anything? First of all, if you guys have to check out Mike Merchant's YouTube channel, which is Snowwalker Prime. The Facebook group is Zen Yeti. I think, Mike, if you have anybody that's got any news or any reports you actively investigate still in Maine?
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, I haven't done an eyewitness interview in a while, but I would say that's probably, aside from us going into the field, I think Lady K and I really enjoy talking to other people and getting their stories. And it's very touching because a lot of these people either have never told anybody their story, or like they're looking for somebody that they trust. Like they don't want to be ridiculed, right? They have this fear of ridicule. And when you talk to them, the majority of them have a lot of, like, it was a traumatic event for them. There's a lot of emotion there. Either it was traumatic in that they were fearful of the experience, or it was traumatic in that their paradigm was shattered.
Right.
Their sense of reality. Like one guy was like, what am I going to see now in the woods? A unicorn? Like I've seen this thing that's impossible. I've seen it. Like, am I going to see a unicorn now or a leprechaun?
Well, that's the thing is, and it's if you read through accounts, and there was one account I read from this park ranger, or he wasn't a park ranger, he was a gentleman who worked for the forestry service, and he would do surveying for forest tracks and stuff like that. And he was out, and he had worked in the field for, I think it was 25 years, and he saw one, and he said the only thing he can equate it to was it was the size of a sheet of plywood. And it came from behind a tree that it shouldn't have fit. Like you said, the tree was much wider. And the guy had worked in the department, he was either for a forest service or for a logging company. And he had worked for 25, 30 years in the woods. He actually quit and never went back in the woods. He took a desk job the next day. That's not a normal behavior for something that doesn't exist. And I remember, go ahead.
Well, you bring up a really good point about these guys is this fear factor. Like, I'll cram this in at the end of your show.
Oh, we got time. He's not going to cut us off, so keep going.
Oh, well, there's this big push for fear, right? I mean, even Expedition Bigfoot kind of, they do the bump, 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 bump. They do the scary music, and I see a lot of the comments like, "Oh my God, they're risking their lives. There's bears and cougars out there," right?
I love your voice for that. I love it, dude.
Well, no, but people have this, like, we have a primitive, deeply seated fear of the unknown. And when you go into the forest, for most people, it's unfamiliar territory. Like I wasn't like I spent a lot of time in the woods, and it wasn't like that I'm living under a tree somewhere into a root system. Like, we're not indigenous people anymore. Not most of us. I mean, this is why a lot of the Indians, the indigenous people of North America, they have a lot of really important and valuable mythologies and stories, because their people were close, like, we're a bunch of white people here. Well, except for Lady K. I mean, we're a bunch of white guys, right? So our indigenous roots are quite distant, right?
Right.
I mean, several hundred years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever, maybe our people were indigenous. So we've lost, and we have our own stories, the Green Man stories, right? But this idea of fear, we keep coming out of the forest. I keep saying, if Sasquatch is as dangerous as these people are saying it is, no one would come out of the forest alive. And we keep coming out of the forest. And even though we've had some experiences that kind of make the hair on your neck go up, we've never felt like in fear of our lives.
Right.
Never felt that way. I never felt like they were trying to drive us out of the woods. It feels like they're trying to communicate somehow. I don't know what that communication is exactly, but it doesn't feel like they're trying to drive us out of the forest. And I disagree with this narrative that these things are killing people. I don't think there's any hard evidence to support that they're doing that.
I don't think there is either. I mean, Sean, do you have an opinion on that? You've been awful quiet lately. What do you think of the Bigfoot killing in the woods?
There's really no evidence I've ever ran across. I've run across like an urban legend type of story,
right?
That's kind of nasty. So I'm not going into it, but it's kind of nasty sounding. But as far as actual occurrences, no, not that can be validated.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you always hear from it if it's from somebody who was there, who heard it from somebody else who.
Right, and I always say you never have a story of 4 people going into the forest, 3 coming out with the story that Sasquatch snatched one of their buddies, or one guy coming out with his arm ripped off. Right?
Yeah.
That's near miss.
God, if we only had that guy.
Right.
How badass would that story be?
11 stories where, well, these people didn't come back. Well, they didn't come back, so we don't have their story. But people go missing in the forest all the time. I mean, like, it's a dangerous place. A branch can fall on your head and kill you, and no one ever finds you. Animals eat you and scatter to your bones. That's the end of the story. And then, somebody goes, "Oh, Sasquatch did it." Well, I don't think that. I don't think that's a reasonable route to go. That because a person is missing, Sasquatch snatched him off the trail.
And that was the whole David Paulides thing. I guarantee you that was the narrative he was driving toward when he did the Hoopa project, and then very successful with his M411 books. And to tell you the truth, as far as a bathroom reader, they're pretty interesting. The little vignettes on people. Stan goes into the woods. Stan was never seen from again. That happens all the time all over the planet. Right. It's nothing new. Like you said, the forest is a very dangerous place. And I would imagine just at Yellowstone alone, people falling off cliffs taking selfies. Right. I mean, there's how many stories of that, and then they weren't found for 18 months later or whatever. So I don't necessarily always think that it's Bigfoot. So what do you have planned? Do you have what's going on for 2021? I know that you have a very demanding job and you can't get away as much as you'd like to. When are you guys getting back in the woods soon?
Oh, I mean, the snow's probably melted up north. It just recently melted around here. And we usually get out either the end of April or May. And so it's pretty much the end of April now, isn't it? So it looks like it'll be May. But Yeah, no, we're chewing at the bit. I left a trail camera up in the forest, and I went up in the fall and because I didn't GPS it like Lady K, I said I couldn't find it. So we have to go back and try to recon those trail cameras. I got 3 of them up there. I'm not expecting Sasquatch on there, but I'll get like pine martens, fishers, bobcat, lynx, stuff like that. Hopefully, cool shit.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Lady K, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you come back. We hope you had a good time, and we hope you come back and you keep us
it was a lot of
posted.
fun, guys.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you for coming.
Hopefully this is a
appreciate it.
I'm going to be going out west in a couple of weeks. I'd love to. I've got her
Good luck
email.
with that project, man.
I will. I've got
Lady
Lady K's email. I'll keep in touch with you guys and let you know where that go. Before we sign off, I just want to let you guys know that we here at the CARC appreciate all of you guys watching and taking part of the super chat. Remember, if you liked what you saw tonight, or even if you didn't like what you saw, I really don't care. Join our Facebook group, which is the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. Subscribe to Mike's channel. It's Snow Walker Prime. Check it out. It's awesome. His Facebook group is Zen Yeti. To report a sighting, go to his group and do it, or you can email us at carcgroup@gmail.com. Coming up next time, we got May 4th, we got the good old boy Dan Perez from Bigfoot Times is coming on, the publisher. And then May 18th, everybody's best friend, MK Davis, will be here to talk about all sorts of things and what he's been up to lately. So thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, Lady K, and thank you, Mike. We'll see you guys next time. Bill, play us out, buddy boy. Good night from behind tall trees. If you enjoyed the previous program, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment.